Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's Advance Your Research webinar. Virginia is for local information lovers. I'm Donna Coghill, the Community Engagement Librarian at VCU Libraries. I'm the Community Engagement Librarian here at VCU Libraries. I'm joined by Julie Arndt, Science and Engineering Research Librarian, and Janet Reed, Business Research Librarian, both from Cabell Library. We have automatically muted your microphones. As we proceed, we encourage you to use the chat box to ask questions or make comments. We'll monitor the chat box as best we can, and we should have a few moments at the end of today's session for additional questions. Finally, note that this webinar is being recorded, so you may also want to mute your video. In the next few days, we'll post a link to the recordings on the research guide for Advance Your Research. If you pre-registered, after the webinar, we'll send you a survey and a link to that guide, so keep an eye on your inbox. Our goals for today's webinar include the best databases for local information, non-database resources for accessing local news, and tricks for limiting searches to particular geographic regions. To find how to get started with Central Virginia local news research, we'll start with the VCU Libraries homepage. We're going to click Research Guides, and then you'll click How Do I on the right toolbar. Finally, scroll until you see Find Local News and Data Resources. This guide was originally designed to support service learning classes at VCU, and it's proven useful to many researchers seeking information about Central Virginia. It provides links to local news, government, and other data resources. Using the left toolbar, you'll find a variety of current and historic news sources, special interest, and publications, maps, census data, and more. You'll also find links to other local libraries and research guides. If you are conducting Central Virginia research, this guide has all the best resources. Next up, Julie is going to show you how to find news using the database Access World News.
Thanks, Donna. Hello, everyone. Before we look at Access World News, I'd like to talk with you a little bit about why you would want to use Access World News instead of just going out on the open web and looking for news. So as businesses, different newspapers have different strategies for making enough money to pay their reporters and editors and to have some profit to pay their owners or shareholders. The management of many daily papers have decided to go the route of providing samples of content for free, but requiring a subscription to see more. Some newspapers will select specific articles as subscription only, and some newspapers will send cookies or otherwise track how often a computer has opened articles on the site and then cap how many are viewed for free. Regardless of how it's done, if you're reading local papers for more than a couple occasional articles, you can easily run into a subscribers-only paywall, like this one from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Not all newspapers have paywalls, but enough of them do that relying on what you can get for free often will lead you into a wall relatively quickly. Just a moment while I make sure that everything is muted for everyone, and if you are having trouble hearing me, please leave a note in the chat box. So if you have this problem that you're going to be running into a paywall, what can you do about it? Well, VCU Libraries pays for Access World News, and in part it's because Access World News includes the Richmond Times-Dispatch, a major newspaper for local news in Richmond. So VCU students, faculty, and staff can read the Times-Dispatch without hitting a paywall. Libraries in other cities may choose to have a different news database like LexisNexis because it includes the major local paper for their region. Now, another reason to use a library database like Access World News is cross-publication searching. So library databases such as Access World News and similar databases like LexisNexis usually cover many publications at once. When you search them, you can search across these multiple publications. So if you're not interested in, say, Central Virginia, not just Richmond, you could look at publications from a variety of communities in the region. You search publications. Sorry, we're having some sound trouble here. So when you search publications that you want, you can go in a variety of different geographic regions, not just in Virginia. So for example, if you're interested in marijuana legalization in Colorado, you could specify the database that you only want to look at local news published in Colorado. There are already sites like Google News and news apps that you can go to and kind of do the same sort of thing, but they're not always the greatest at being able to specify the geographic region. You don't want to know how many times I've stumbled on local news from Richmond, California, when I was looking for information about news stories in Richmond, Virginia. So now let's take a look at Access World News. So one way to get to Access World News is to start at the local news and data resources page. And I'm going to click on the link for Richmond Times-Dispatch via Access World News. You can see here there's also just a link to get to Access World News for other Virginia sources. If you are able to remember the name of this database, you can also find it by typing that name into the search box on the library's homepage, or going to the databases link on the library's homepage and then finding Access World News there. So this takes me to the landing page for Access World News. If I only wanted to look at the Richmond Times-Dispatch, I could click on this shortcut to the Times-Dispatch in the lower right for the Richmond Times-Dispatch collection. For this demonstration, though, I'm going to look for a topic regardless of the source. So let's say I'm interested in the Pulse bus. I might type in Pulse bus here. And you start looking, though, it's clear that I'm getting results from places other than Richmond, from Scotland, from Jordan, from New Delhi. So I need to narrow it down to Richmond. One way to do that is over in source location. I could drill down to North America, and then to the United States, and then to Virginia, and finally to Richmond. But under more options, there's also the ability for me to specify directly. So I could say state, Virginia, United States, or I could even go so far as I'm going to go, which is to say city, and then type in Richmond, and select Richmond, Virginia, and apply that. And now I have results for sources just from Richmond, Virginia. And when I look here, I see something peculiar going on, though, that there are sometimes things where the same article apparently is coming up more than once. So I see this Richmond Henrico weighing $1.4 million twice. And yeah, it has different dates, but there's something odd going on here. So we need to figure out, well, what is this and how can we get rid of it? And what's going on is that if we look under the actual source name, and again, we can see in more options, that we have multiple versions of the Times-Dispatch going on here. So there is a newspaper version, which is the print newspaper. There is a web-only source, which is the web version of the Times-Dispatch. And then there's also this image version. So what's happening here is that our access to Access World News covers some different versions, which is nice if you were interested in seeing things that might have only been covered on the web and not in the print, or vice versa. And then the image version is nice because that will let you see the Times-Dispatch in the context of the paper newspaper. but not so nice if you really only just want to see what's in the paper. So you might go in here and just select one of these versions. I'm going to not do that because I want to be able to show you some things about the differences between those versions. The other thing I want to point out to you here is just for you to be able to see, well, what publications are covered when I limited to Richmond, Virginia. So you can see that includes the Commonwealth Times, which is a newspaper here for students at VCU, the Collegian, which is at the University of Richmond, and TV Channel 6 News. So going back to these results, I'm going to look at this article, which is the one from about the $1.4 million. And first, let's look at what is actually the version that is the image version. So we see here under news article, if I click on image, it's going to take me to a page that is very large. I can zoom out to actually see the article, which actually shows an image of what that article looked like in the Times-Dispatch, including the picture of Mayor Stoney. And then I can see how it's continued on page A6. There are thumbnails over on the right that I can jump to page 6 and read the rest of the article. This also gives me options that if I wanted to download what the page looks like, that I can do that under download. And I can say whether I want to download the full page or select part of it, and I can email it to myself. One thing that I can't really do here, though, is copy text. I'm playing around with my mouse, which you may not be able to see, but you can see how the page is just scrolling, even though I'm moving my mouse as if I'm trying to select text. So if I want to be able to say, have a quotation from what someone said in the article, that's the paper image version is not going to be as helpful as actually looking at a text version of the article. In this case, I found the text version from the web edition, but I also could grab the text version from the print edition. And this version allows me to copy text out. It's similar to the other, the image version. It allows me to download, it allows me to email, and I can get a citation here, both in like APA style or to send to my citation manager. Now, I will warn you, as you can see here, these citations are not perfect, so Suarez Rojas, comma C, shouldn't be capitalized like that, but it gets me pretty close to what a properly formatted APA citation would be. So at this point, I have pretty much shown you everything I wanted to show you with Access World News. But before I move on, I want to ask, does anyone have any questions about it? Okay. Seeing none, then we will talk a little bit about other sources. Because as I mentioned, Access World News doesn't cover everything. We saw that it really just covered the Times-Dispatch, a couple student papers, and TV6. But there are quite a few other publications in Richmond. So if we're going to be interested in getting a lot of different kinds of sources, a lot of different communities and how they're talking about a particular issue, limiting myself to what's in Access World News might not be everything that I need. And this incompleteness isn't specific to Richmond. For a lot of communities, these kind of smaller publications aren't covered in a database like Access World News. Fortunately, a lot of these smaller publications tend, at least right now, to have a business model that uses free distribution. So you're usually able to access them without running into a paywall. But unfortunately, because they're small, they tend to be harder to find, and they're easy to miss if you don't already know that they exist or don't have the good fortune of stumbling upon them. For Richmond, you have the good fortune of having the Local News and Data Resources Guide, which will point you to these resources. So you can see additional local news resources here and television and radio news sources right on the guide. But what if you're interested in a community other than Richmond? we know Access World News isn't going to do it for you. And even though it will allow you to narrow down by location and will allow you to search publications in that region, it's not necessarily going to be complete. So if Access World News doesn't cover every source in the city, what can you do? Well, you could just do some searching on the open web and maybe stumble upon some of those sources. But you know, public libraries in those places pretty often are going to be getting questions about local news and local history in their communities. So like if we take a look at Alexandria, they have guides just like VCU Libraries does. It takes a little bit of searching to find, oh, okay, it's under services, research services guides. But then they have, for example, government and law. And that has information specifically about Alexandria and shortcuts to things like the city code right on it. And from there, I can get to the city site. And then on the city site, I can start looking, like if I'm interested in the Amazon headquarters, I can search for Amazon and get straight to their page that the city is providing their press releases and their meetings about the Amazon 2 headquarters that's coming to Alexandria and Arlington. It's pretty straightforward. And a lot of cities have things like this where you can get on their site, search for GIS and find maps where they have their zoning and their tax maps, all that sort of thing. So that's pretty nice. You just sort of go to the community and look for what you want. But I will warn you, not every city is as nice as Alexandria about this. And it's a bit of a detour from news, but I just sort of want you to know that aside from the sites not always being easy to navigate, even though they're typically going to have somewhere where they have like the agenda and minutes of the city council and request forms for services and press release from the city, sometimes they'll have those hosted by different organizations because of how complex the websites can get. So things like the Google trick where you might be able to go to Google and then say site : and the domain, like in this case, www.alexandria.gov to search the site, doesn't always work completely at catching everything. So it's not to say you shouldn't use a trick like that, but depending on the community, you may also need to just take some time, poke around the community's website, and figure out how it's organized to find everything there. So going back now, though, to the Alexandria Public Library. So they've given us some sites for local information right in Alexandria. But obviously, if I'm interested in something like the Amazon 2 headquarters, the press release from the city isn't the only thing I might care about. I might care about how local residents are reacting to it and want to get the kind of things that are going to be reported in the news. And on this site, eventually I can find on the bottom that Alexandria has a subscription to LexisNexis. So I could go to the Alexandria Library and use LexisNexis. In all likelihood, they picked it because it covers some of the news sources that are local to the region. But if I'm not in Alexandria, I can't do that because it's only available at their law library. So then what could you do? Well, one thing you could do is, as we know already, you could limit a search in Access World News to Alexandria or Alexandrian neighboring communities like Alexandria and Arlington. But that might miss some smaller publications. What else could you do to find those? Well, since we're already at the Alexandria Library site, we could just ask them. They have a chat box right here that I could ask them, what are some of the local newspapers there? How can I get to them? And if they didn't have the chat box, they're going to have a contact us link where they have the phone number. You can just ask the local librarians, where should I be looking for this? Now, I understand if you're as introverted as I am, that means you have to swallow hard, take a deep breath, make that phone call and ask the librarians. You really can do it though. But if that's a little bit too much, there's another option that we're lucky enough to have in Virginia. And it tends to be for historic research usually, but it's can help you with contemporary research as well, which is the Virginia Newspaper Project at the Library of Virginia. So if I go to Library of Virginia's site, I've sort of shortcutted to newspapers, but if you search their website for newspapers, you would eventually end up at the Virginia Newspaper Project. And I can look in Virginia cities to see the names of newspapers in Alexandria. And when I look here, you can see that a lot of these are historic newspapers from the 1800s and probably some from even earlier. But one of the things they've done is if the newspaper was still in publication at the time the site was last updated, they have put 9999 as the last year of publication. So I can find the names of contemporary newspapers in Alexandria by just using the Control F or my browser's find feature to find those 9999s in Alexandria. And that will give me the names of some local papers to look at. So, the local Richmond news, the research guide is a good place to start. Even for non-Richmond local news, it's a good place to start because it connects you to Access World News, and that lets you narrow by location across a variety of locations, not just Richmond. But Access World News is incomplete, so if you want to look at a variety of news sources, you may want to look for those sources in particular. And that could involve connecting to the library in the local community or using a resource like the Virginia Newspaper Project to find more. Do we have any questions about news before we switch over to local demographic and business information? Okay, seeing none, with that, I'll turn it over to Janet Reed.
Thanks, Julie. What if you need local demographic data or company information? I'd recommend you try using Simply Analytics to find local demographic data, or ReferenceUSA to find information on local companies. Simply Analytics is a mapping software database that allows you to create interactive maps and reports from census, demographic, business, and marketing variables. This database uses information taken from PRISM, Simmons Research, and Dun & Bradstreet. The PRISM data from Claritas defines every household in terms of 66 demographic and behavior types or segments to help marketers discern those customers' likes, dislikes, lifestyles, and purchasing behaviors. Simmons Research measures American consumer psychographics, preferences, attitudes, and media behaviors. Dun & Bradstreet's U.S. business and points of interest data include legal name, business name, NASCII code, address, telephone number, and web address. All of these resources combined give the user the ability to view their desired data by state, congressional district, city, county, zip code, census tract, or block group. Simple Analytics is a good resource to use when you need a way to present information in a visual format. Simple Analytics is a useful tool that delivers the visual aspect of a multimedia presentation. For example, if you use Simply Analytics to find the ideal location for a yoga studio in Richmond by conducting a search based on designated variables about yoga participants like age, gender, household income, lifestyle, eating habits, and health club membership. Simply Analytics is simple to use. Searching the database becomes easier with frequent use. Simply Analytics offers a 5-minute tutorial on how to use the database. If you desire additional training, please contact me, Janet Reed. The first time you use the database, it will require you to create a password that will be emailed to you. Now, if your research requires information on companies and people, I recommend you try using ReferenceUSA. This database contains information on U.S. businesses and Canadian businesses and people. ReferenceUSA allows its users to search by name, subject, location, NASCII SIC codes, number of employees, sales volume, and more. There are special database segments for new businesses, doctors, dentists, and new homeowners. There's also a database of a historical directory of information for those looking for companies that are no longer in business. And then there's the U.S. Consumer Lifestyle segment of the database, which allows users to identify consumers based on geography, home value or income, and personal interests such as apparel, cooking, pets, etc. This can be useful for identifying potential customers when developing a business plan. ReferenceUSA also allows you to create a map or chart with your search results. ReferenceUSA is a helpful database to use when you are searching for information on a small, local, or new company. For training in how to use ReferenceUSA, click the Learning Center tab for access to the following: a 1-hour webinar offered every Wednesday, several 5-minute how-to search videos, and numerous step-by-step search guides. If you desire additional training, please contact me. Now, let's pause and take a minute and start looking at our databases. Let's try using Simply Analytics. We're going to go to we've gone to the library's website, and we're going to click All Databases. And then we're going to type in Simply Analytics in the search box, and then highlight the description of the database and hit Enter. Now, you will sign in using your email address or password, and as we'll do right now, we will sign in as a guest and click Sign In. Please notice you can take a quick tour of the database, which is helpful, and it only takes 5 minutes. But for now, we'll close this box. To see this database in action, let's try and find the number of yoga businesses in Richmond and how often people have visited these businesses in the last 12 months. The database is now asking us to select the variables for our new project by typing in the geographical area we would like to search. So let's type in Richmond. Oops. There's Richmond, Virginia. We'll select that and hit Next. Note the default variables now on the screen. The database will automatically search for median household income, percentage education, percentage housing, or it will allow you to select to create the project without the seed variables, and that's what we're going to do now. To create a map or report, we must enter the necessary variables indicated in the left corner of the screen, which are location, data, and businesses. Next, we'll select business, and we'll type in yoga in the search box. Press enter. And you see that the yoga businesses are detailed on the map, and it also outlines the city of Richmond in a yellow border. Now we're going to select data, and we're going to scroll down until we see consumer behavior. There it is. We'll click. We now have another search box. We'll search for the behavior known as yoga, and we see that we have the option to choose entertainment, leisure, sports and fitness, sports played and participated in 12 months, yoga. So we'll select that and close the data search box. Now we see our results. We see depicted on the map the variable entertainment leisure, sports, fitness played in the last 12 months, yoga, and how people have participated in yoga across the Richmond area. And we see it's denoted by zip code as well. So now let's click on the other reports we can view. It defaults to show us map, but next we'll see the businesses. And we see that there is a list of 31 yoga businesses in the Richmond area. Now let's click comparison. And this shows us the number of yoga participants in the last 12 months in Richmond versus the entire United States. Now we'll click ranking to see the number of participants in yoga in the city of Richmond by zip code. Now let's create a comparison report of 2 local zip codes and the entire state of Virginia to compare these by median household income and the percentage of education. To begin a new search, we have to click Manage Project, and then we want to delete the project, and it says, are you sure you want to delete the project? Yes, we are. And now we can enter the new project by selecting our zip codes, which are 23226. Select it, and then 23234. Oops, 23234, and we select it, and then lastly, the state of Virginia. Here it is. Select it and hit next. Then we will accept the default variables of median household income, percentage education, and percentage housing to create the project. And our map will be created for us. This map shows us the median household income in zip code 23226. We can toggle between our 3 locations by selecting it up here, and we started with 23236. Now we'll toggle to 23234 and see the results there, and then see our results for the state of Virginia. Then we can see the report as a comparison table. And we see our results there, and then we choose to see our results in ranking. The ranking view allows us to see the largest to the smallest by census tract. A census tract is an area roughly equivalent to a neighborhood established by the Bureau of Census for analyzing populations. So with that, I think we have demonstrated that Simply Analytics can give you numerous options to make informed business decisions by using and illustrating variables based on demographic, consumer, census, and marketing data points. Are there any questions? Okay, we'll close this. And we'll go to our next, oops. Okay, let's switch gears and take a look at how to conduct a search in ReferenceUSA.
We have one question.
Oh, okay, sorry. What's the question? I don't see it.
Okay.
Oh. Just a minute. Okay, we'll keep going. So we're going to look at ReferenceUSA, and we've gone to the library's website, and we're going to click All Databases. And then we'll type in the name of our database, which is ReferenceUSA. And we'll see the description and click it. Now, you see that there are 10 searchable databases on this page that assist you in finding information from businesses, people, doctors, dentists, consumers, and more. Clicking the green search box is the easy way to begin searching for U.S. information. So let's do that. Let's enter the details for the Village Cafe in Richmond, Virginia, to get some information on that. Then there's Richmond, and then we select Virginia, and we click View Results to see the report. I recommend that you click Print. First we want to click the name of the company. It's up to tell the computer we want to select that one. Then we want to click Print because we want to see the full report. And then I suggest you use the detailed report, and then you select Preview to have your report generated. It will create a PDF for you. This is the simplest way to print. It does take a few minutes, but once it's done, you will open and save your document. And that's the simplest form of printing. So we'll cancel this for now. And then we're going to go on and look at how you search. You can conduct advanced search on ReferenceUSA. So we'll click the new search key, and we see that we have the quick search or the advanced search. We want to look at the advanced search and look at all the various options we have for creating an advanced search. They're on the left-hand side of the screen here, and we can search by company name, executive, business type, geography, phone, business size, ownership, financial data, special selects, and exclusions. So, for an example, I would like to create a list of all the coffee shops in Midlothian, Virginia. So, we're going to search by keyword and SIC code and NASCII code. So we're going to type in coffee shops and click the search button. And we have an exact match for coffee shops right here, and we're going to select that. Then we're going to go over and select city and state, scroll down and type in the name Midlothian and hit the go button. It found Midlothian, Virginia. We make that selection, and then we want to go back to the top and view our results. And we see that there are 18 coffee shops in Midlothian, Virginia. And I like the heat map. I'm going to click that one to display it because it gives us a map of all those locations for those 18 coffee shops as well as addresses. So that's pretty sweet. So we're going to hit the go back key, and we're going to conduct another new search because now I want to show you how to find all the private companies in Virginia that have sales over $1 billion. So we're going to search by city and state because we want all the businesses in Virginia. So we type in the word Virginia and hit go. And okay, that's, oh, I have a typo. Okay. There we go. And then we're going to scroll down, and there's the state of Virginia. All right. Then we're going to look for sales volume. So scroll down till we see that on the left-hand side. And then we're going to scroll down until we see over $1 billion and select that. And then we see ownership, and we want to select a private company. So there's public-private. And then we have the option only companies that are private. We select that. And then we want to view the results. And we see that there are 45 companies in Virginia with sales over $1 billion. So the advanced search gives you several options for finding specific details about companies. So do we have any questions about searching ReferenceUSA? Also, I wanted to note in the beginning, I told you there were a lot of training options available here with ReferenceUSA. Here's the Learning Center tab I was talking about. As a matter of fact, and see, it offers webinars. Let me hover over it again. Webinars, videos, and training guides. So let's click on it so you'll see all that. And that's always available to you. So do we have any questions? I know someone had a question earlier.
Simon has a question on Simply Analytics. Can you use it to check businesses in the area of computer services?
So we would have to look to see if that's a variable that's available to us. I can't, we'd have to go and find it now. I already closed it. Let me see. Just have to get back here.
Go back to
This one. Okay. Oops. Just a second. So we'll go back the way we showed you. Just a second. Oh, it went right back where it was. I want to make sure I delete this. It's interesting. Okay, so what was the type of business that we wanted?
computer services.
Okay, just a second. We're going to go over here to businesses, and as we typed in yoga, let's just type in computer services and see if something comes up. So it does not look like they're...
Add location.
Just a second. Oops. Okay, looks like there are a few. Now it says computer services, so I want to double check what that definition is, but there you have that. Also, I would run it in ReferenceUSA as well. Remember, we typed in coffee shops, and so we got a specific SIC code with that. So I would run the search in both locations as well. Now, another thing we can do, let me see if we can, that actually tells us the name of this business. So that's another way we could validate whether or not we're accurate with the category that we got. It talks about the line of business. And see, here's now, as I was saying, here's the SIC code and the ASCII code. And so that's a good comparison. If you use both databases, you could have more than one option for finding information on those specific kind of companies. And then you could get really anal and compare the SIC codes and the ASCII code to make sure that you're lining up like businesses. So yes, there was an option. Hopefully that helped you. Oh, okay. And we'll close this. Okay, I'll let you go.
So I think we have finished everything in terms of the slides. And so we just have a reminder here of where the research guide is that we've been sort of jumping off of, as well as the Advance Your Research series, which the slides will be posted there soon, and then the video in a few days. It takes us some time to process it and get that all posted in YouTube. The other thing you'll see on that guide is a link to register for our last event in this series, which is the Get Ready for Summer Research. That's later this month, and you can register there for that final webinar. And then we also have our contact information here if you have any questions about the particular resources that we talked about. So you could contact Donna if you want to know more about the guide or about local information in Richmond. You could contact me if you wanted to know about Access World News or news resources. You could contact Janet about business research sources such as Simply Analytics. So before we totally wrap up, we're going to ask again if you have any questions.
Oh, I'm not in. I'm half in.
So anything coming up in the chat?
I don't see any other questions.
Oh, yes.
One more.
Simon has one.
Yes, please. Well, while we're doing this, I do want to go back to a lot of the tutorials that Janet mentioned. I have linked in the local news guide. So when you get to the tab for other resources, you'll see Reference USA and Simply Analytics, as well as links to tutorials on both of those guides, because I know that Janet was really super thorough, but if you don't use it in the near future, you're going to forget. Okay, so Simon, will you send us a contact info sheet? Yes, that's actually part of the slides that you're going to get if you signed up in advance.
Well, and even if you didn't sign up in advance, the slides get posted to that advanced research guide along with the video. So if you just wanted to get our contact information, you wouldn't have to watch the whole video. You could just open up the slides and flip yourself back to the very last couple of slides to find our contact information.
Excellent. You're welcome. Any other last questions? Oh, good. We're so glad that this was helpful. I saw somebody had posted that earlier too, particularly about Janet's Simply Analytics tutorial. So yay, Janet. Any other last questions? I think that might be it. You are welcome to email any of us. I don't know how to get back to that slide, but we're happy to help y'all. Do go to the AYR guide if you want to see the slides, and the video will be posted soon. So thank everyone so much for your time. Here is one last shot, hopefully, of our contact information. Anything else?
I don't think so. So we'll just hang out here a little while to let people write down the contact information if you want to get that. And then eventually, once people start disappearing, we'll close out the meeting.
So yeah, if you have any last questions, we'll be here for a little bit.
Thanks for attending.
Bye.
Thank you.
Do you want to mute her? Yeah.